Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. It's 6 p.m. It is our board meeting on June the 22nd. We are going to say our Pledge of Allegiance. We have a multiple of flags in the room, but we are going to use this one over here to go for. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mhm. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on this cool evening, by the way. Um, said 94 on my cart at one point in time. So welcome. It is the time now. We do have a quorum, Kendall, and all board of directors members are here. Comments for the record, I would remind you that July 4th is coming up, the whole weekend, and it kicks off on July 3rd with our folk concert at 7:30, and I think some special things at the lodge, and then it will, I guess, progress to the next day on July 4th, right? For some people. And lineup for the parade starts at 7:30 on Modoc, and it's going to be a single file line, so that way we can get any kind of equipment or anything down. And then it just rolls from there into breakfast at the lodge on Saturday, and our opening ceremonies at 9:15 out here. 9:30 the parade starts. If you are in the parade or you know anyone that is in the parade, remind them please to save candy and goodies for the end of the parade, because that's probably the biggest critical feedback we get from July 4th over the past 5 years, is that there's never any candy at the end of the parade. So please try to do that. Our Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department will be our grand marshals this year. And after the parade is over, then we have lots of rides and activities all around the lodge. So please join and come. We will finish around 1:30 that day. A lot of people will be exhausted. And just to remind you that it is July 4th and the fireworks will be on July 4th, sometime probably after the sun goes down, after 9:15-ish or so. One change on that is that it's only golf cart only parking down by the dam, where a lot of times people tried to park. Those are private lots for people. And so it just will be golf cart only parking down there by the dam, just to let you know. And then on Sunday, chapel kicks it off at 8, and then the Kiowa Fellowship at 10, and at 10 o'clock, also we have registration for cornhole. Jim Adams and his team is going to lead that again. And for those that are 12 to 14 or 15 to 18, we will have a sand volleyball competition going on the sand lot on the West Beach. So anyway, lots of stuff on July 4th. Please thank our staff and be nice to them, because they're doing lots of things now to get ready for that. If you want to buy your tickets online, you can buy them now and beat the hot line that we have at the ticket booth every year. That's all that I can think of right now to remind you for. I'm sure there's something else that will come to mind, but right now that's all I have for the members. I will ask, are there any comments from our members before we get started here? James? Make sure you got a microphone from Scott, and your name and your lot number, please, sir.
It's James Lingholm, lot 73. I'm concerned with the sexual harassment ruling that we're trying to pass or get through. Not that we don't need it, that we've done our due diligence to make sure that there's not a negative financial impact from creating something that's not written by attorneys. I don't believe, and I don't know for sure, but I don't believe that we've actually contacted an attorney that specializes in either labor law or sexual harassment to review our policy. And I'd hate to see us get in a situation where we've got a liability that we created, even though our community has functioned fine for over 55 years, and do something that doesn't make sense long-term financially. When I read over the Why Lake Kiowa needs a sexual harassment rule, a little fact, if you will. One of the quotes in here says what the law says, and it talks about the HUD rule. It's HUD Regulation 24B1 100A 100.7. There is nothing that's in that regulation that has any language whatsoever that has to do with sexual harassment. So I don't even understand why that would be quoted. I understand on the second part of that, that may be related, but it seems like that what we're building our case on, if we're going to say that there's a need for this type of rule or regulation, then we need to have a better basis than our opinions and the fact that we think we need it. There may be an incident that I'm unaware of, but would it be better to potentially handle that with existing rules, adjusting those, making the language more general so we're not trying to open anything up one way or another? Again, I'm not an attorney. I know there's a couple of attorneys in here. They may have a better opinion on it than I am, but I'm concerned about that. And if an attorney says that we need it, then let's move forward. But I don't think we've ever really proven that at this point. So that's my comment.
Okay. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the members? Mark? Yep.
Thank you, Nancy. Mark Tarpley, lot 1734, and I apologize I'm late. You'd think living on the north east side, I'd have known that the bridge was still closed, and then I had to drive 15 minutes around the lake. So I appreciate your time tonight. I noticed on the agenda tonight, we're finally starting to bring some of the rules that the Watercraft Committee talked about. And but I noticed only 3 are on the agenda, and I don't know the reason for that. I'm not privy to that. I would just ask that we would table that until we have all the rules. There were 6 or 7 really, really important rules that were brought forward. A lot of committee members or the entire committee spent a lot of time and resources and research, and a lot of effort went into the recommendations that went to the rules committee. So for whatever reason, there's only 3 brought up tonight. I would really ask that the committee or the board as a whole just kind of wait and let's get them all together at once, because one rule is not more important than the others. These are not low-hanging fruit. They're all important. And I really think that to respect the process, that's kind of been my whole message through a lot of this, is respect the process and let it play out. So I would just ask that you as a board do that. Not really sure, again, why there's only 3 on there, but would like to see all of the rules papered and brought to the board as a whole. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Any other comments from the members? I do have one from, I did get a call from Randy Howell, and I don't know his lot number. I forgot to get that, but Randy Howell, and he was opposed to decreasing the age limits as with adult supervision, because he thinks adult supervision is needed on the golf course. And so he was opposed to the golf cart potential rule change that would really reduce the age restriction. And so he just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of his view. So any other comments from the members? All right. We're going to move then to our next item, which is our deliberation of our board minutes from May 28th.
Madam President, we have made the corrections as they were drafted by our wonderful secretary-elect that sits at the back of the room and does all the real work. And I would make a motion that the minutes be approved.
All right. I have a motion to approve the minutes from the board meeting minutes from May 28, 2026 by Ronnie and second by Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Nope. And so we have 9-0, Kendall. We did approve our minutes. Next item on our agenda is our financial update. Dan?
hopefully is better. All right, starting at the top of the house, we had a really good month on the revenue side. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The lodge definitely had a very positive impact from a revenue perspective. So we're about $19,000 over versus budget on revenue. Year to date, we're about $81,000 over on revenue, which is phenomenal. Expense, pretty much right in line, this month and month of May. But as you guys know, for the first 4 months of the year, we were definitely over on expenses, and we still are over in certain things. We'll talk about it. But, now that we're 80 ahead on revenue, being 84, over on expenses kind of evens out. So roughly $3,600 behind at this point. So pretty good shape being through 5 months out of the year. All right, on the revenue side, as I talked about, the lodge food and beverage was $16,500 higher. Memorial Day was obviously super busy here. Anyone that was at the lodge that weekend understands that. We had some functions. So, the fact that we've continued to have months where the lodge is breaks even or breaks even plus is really, again, a great testament to Rich, Jeremy, Ronnie, and the lodge committee. Just phenomenal. Going through, most of this is pretty de minimis. On the expense side, we continue to have some overages in insurance. I think we talked about last month, we had an unexpected $25,000 bill for D&O insurance. So that's still going to hang out. That's going to be with us for the rest of the year. But overall, on the administration side, we're in pretty good shape. Going down to sanitation and recycle, we are going to be off on sanitation and recycle all year because of the new addition of sales tax to the money that we pay on sanitation, which I still can't get my mind around, but is true. And then, the other side of having higher revenue in the lodge means that we're serving more customers, putting more meals out, more drinks out. So you see that we have $7,000 above on or over budget on food, $5,000 above on liquor. But, those two things traded off. And for the month, we ended up in the positive territory. So that's pretty amazing. Reserve fund balances, nothing really exciting there. Nothing changed dramatically. We did spend some money on seawalls, riprap, the project that the Lake Management Committee is running with biodegradable kind of organics to see how that would work. But we're in pretty good shape there. The delinquent accounts, we had 890 plus last month. We have 890 plus this month. The dollar amount went up a little bit because those 8 people are still kind of hanging out there. Interest income, initiation fee money still chugging along. As you saw last month for the full year 2025, those two items accounted for $600,000 in revenue for the POA without any member paying additional dues. So it's roughly 10% of last year's budget, which, those things are really helping us be able to keep the same level of amenities and services. So pretty straightforward. Checking balance at First State mostly is $320,000. Reserve funds, including all the other things that aren't quite reserve funds, but security deposits, contingency balance for the budget, Part 3 donations. I think in there is all told Part 3. I think we have something like $600,000 in Part 3 money that we are investing. And then the initiation fee money. Again, we keep all that during the year so we can spend it the following year. So that will continue to build up. So we have about $5.7 million. But the important thing to remember is that 5.4 in the reserve funds and the other accounts can only be spent on the items that they're there for. So we can only spend lake management on the lake or golf course, reserve fund on the golf course, etc. Here's kind of how it's broken out as far as the individual accounts. So you can see the details on the checking information for O&M. You can see where we are on all the different reserve funds and the other accounts. And here's how they're invested. We're still a little on the short end from a maturity perspective. Some of that is knowing that we need to spend money from the CDRF on the pickleball courts. So we need to be pretty short term on that so we can pay bills when we need to. But we continue to need to think about our strategy there to go a little bit longer to try to keep some of these new higher interest rates locked in for us. The other piece to note is we're using more investing in the treasury funds or the treasury bills than we had previously. So we're still getting a little bit higher level of income through the treasuries than we were getting through CDs and CDRs. Okay. So before I move on, what questions do you guys have about any of the financials? All right. So I do wanted to add one topic on to this. Which maybe this is more under my hat of long-term planning than it is about short-term financials or month-to-month financials. But one of the things that we all have been thinking about, talking about, is how many people are moving to North Texas, and starting to think about, as we see more development creep north, what does that really mean for us? So at a high level, last 5 years, DFW, including Arlington, grew 11%. We're definitely the fourth largest metro in the country. You'll see that we're pretty close to Chicago to be third. So that's 340 people moving to this area every day. And around us, Princeton, Salina, some of the other cities in Collin County and north of Collin County are growing pretty fast. So, Salina grew 25% in 5 years, which is pretty hard to believe. So what's that really mean for us? I think it's really good in a lot of ways. That the place like Kiowa that you're already here, there's going to be more demand for places like Kiowa, and we all know they don't really exist. So we just need to be thinking about how do we, as the world around us grows to the fence, what's that mean? What do we do? How do we kind of manage that? And how do we kind of think through that from a long-term planning perspective? Just for comparison's sake, the big areas in Texas, Dallas grew by 880,000 people in 5 years. So by far, the biggest we've seen, Houston grow 750,000, but every part of this kind of quote unquote Texas triangle is growing very quickly. As I said, DFW is by a good margin, the fourth largest metroplex in the country. Chicago is just north of us, but Chicago is actually getting a little bit smaller. So over the next 5 years, the same rate of growth in Dallas and the same rate of shrinkage happens in Chicagoland, Dallas will become the third largest metroplex in the country. Just in a different way to break it out, in the green on the right-hand side shows you all the different towns around that are growing quickly. If you think about it, 4 out of the top 11 fastest growing cities in the country are within an hour drive from where we are right now. So it's pretty amazing to see how fast everything is growing around us. So again, the reason why I put it in here is to start to think about over the long term, what should we be doing? How do we think about that? What should we be doing to continue to protect Kiowa, to keep it as special as it is today? So any thoughts or questions on that? Is that helpful? And again, as the concept was, we all talk about it, but then I started like, all right, what are the real numbers and what's it mean for us around here? And that's what I came up with. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Just make it scarier as we go forward, right? Well, that's true. If I'm selling real estate, that's true. Very true. All right, moving on to the next thing on our agenda, it would be committee updates. You have in your packet a list of some updates. We took a few people off of some committees, and then we cleaned up the golf committee and put the people that had gone on and off. And so we moved those around. Different people like Lori Brindle came on as president of the WGA. And so just tried to clean that up and get that. And so I'm, I have actually, there's two motions that are on this particular piece of paper. And so the first one would be to approve the committee changes that are there. And so I make a motion that we approve the changes to the Donation Advisory Committee, the Golf Committee, and the Lodge and Tavern Committee. And Cecil seconds it. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. And those opposed? All right. 9-0, it is approved, and we made those updates to our committees. And the other motion that would be on this would be to discharge our Watercraft and Lake Rules Ad Hoc Committee and thank them for their service because they had a hard job in front of them. And so that would be the second motion to that. And so I move that we discharge them and thank them for their service. Is there a second? And Ronnie seconds it. All right. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
I think Carolyn's in the audience. I thought I saw her come in earlier.
Did you?
Thank you so much for chairing that. I know it was very heated. I attended one or two of the meetings, so I just wanted to personally say thank you to Carolyn. I thought I saw her come in.
Anyone else? All right. All right. All those in favor of discharging with a big thank you, raise your hand. All right. And those opposed? And it does pass. And so, yes, thank you, Carolyn, and the rest of the members that were there. So they did a great job of pulling together some information and making some recommendations for us to consider over the next couple of months. All right. Next item of business is Pete Mason. I asked Pete to come and do Architectural Control Committee presentation about the goals and objectives for 26, 27, and also sort of using our new mission and vision format along the way. So.
It's not that. So this is our vision statement that Dan and the rest of the group put together. So Lake Kiowa thrives as a welcoming and enduring community, protecting the lake, preserving natural beauty, sustain a culture where people feel secure, connected, and proud to live here. We will preserve the lifestyle and honor the traditions that brought people here. And then the mission statement as well is that they put together the Lake Kiowa Property Owners Association will responsibly manage Lake Kiowa's common property and community services for the benefit of all members. Through strong stewardship and discipline, thoughtful governance, we maintain all assets, overall appearance, plan for the long-term needs, safeguard the community security and well-being, and lead the transparency and mutual respect. And Dan, I do think those are very good vision and mission statements, and the team that you had together did a great job with that. So, yeah, I think so. So from the Architectural Control Committee, the Architectural Control Committee operates under the Lake Kiowa Property Owners Association. The committee's primary purpose is to review exterior changes, new builds, ensuring that all projects conform to community standards, restrictive covenants, bylaws, and protect overall property values. To achieve the overall vision, the ACC evaluates wide variety of property alterations, including new home construction, roofing, exterior paint changes, docks, fences, and detached buildings. All rules and regulations, are outlined in the ACC handbook. Here is something I would suggest to you, Nancy, and to Dan, is possibly putting this document in every month into your board packets. This gives you a very, very good overview of what is transpiring here at Lake Kiowa as far as not just the ACC, but the new builds that are going on, which is obviously that's the largest contributor to our budget is a new home build. You have all these different elements in here that add up, but the new home build is a real big portion of it. So, and we're doing very well as far as budget. We're showing negative right now, but if you extrapolate it out through the balance of the year, just our normal day-to-day permits, the small individual ones, will get us to our budget number. It's the new home builds, which we're kind of forecasting probably another 4 to 5, I would say, by the end of the year, which is really going to take us over the top as far as meeting and exceeding our budget. Then I put this slide together just to let everybody know who the players are, if you will, in the ACC. So you have Rich as the community manager, is there 95, 98% of the time. Patty McGuire is the compliance officer. Melanie Cade is the chief security, and Scott Manning is public directors. All 4 of those individuals, they try to attend almost every meeting that there is, unless they're out of town on vacation. And then the actual committee members themselves: Mark Payne, Bobby Frank, Dave Slack. If you notice, there's an asterisk by those 3 individuals' names. When I'm not available, any one of those guys has been more than willing to step up and take over for me to run the meetings. And in case I ever decide to stop, or Nancy takes me out of the position, or somebody else, then any one of those 3 individuals, I would be very confident in them to be able to take over as the chairman. So then you also have Robin Parkinson, John Kalina, Jim Neheb, and Mark Dickinson, and of course myself as the chairman. So that's what I wanted to present to you about the ACC. I think it gives you a good overview, especially that one slide that I, again, would suggest that you have placed in the board packet every year.
Every month or every year?
No, excuse me, every month.
Every month, okay.
No, we want
right.
a little bit more updated information once a year.
And so Dan's going to get that information from
Yeah,
We get
From Rich?
Bristol.
Yeah.
Right.
Patty and Scott put that together every month for us.
Right.
And looking at what you presented, especially in the permits summary, it looks like the thing that you talk about the most is exterior renovations.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, interior we do not deal with at all. So if somebody wants to redo their kitchen or laundry room or anything like that, that's fine and dandy. That is not part of our purview. It's anything on the exterior.
Any questions for Pete?
Pete, so following up on Nancy's thing, or Nancy's question, sorry. Yeah, I mean, what are the most challenging things that you have to deal with as far as going through this? I mean, just because I've never been to an ACC meeting, I don't know what they're really like, but just a little flavor would be helpful. I mean, does most things just kind of follow the?
We have a pretty standard format, and we start off, of course, just like you guys did this afternoon or this evening, approve the minutes from the previous meeting. We do meet twice a year, or twice per month, first and third Mondays, 9:00. Anybody's welcome to attend. We go through, the next section would be going through those permits and from the previous month and year to date, go through those numbers and make sure everybody's up to date. Have any questions about any permits that have been approved? We do not we do not approve every permit. Patty and Scott and Rich, they have, they can go in and discuss certain ones, and if they're pretty standard, then they just go ahead and approve those so that it can be, so the whoever's doing the project can move forward with it in a timely fashion, rather than waiting for, if you don't get it in by Wednesday of the prior to the meeting, you might have to wait another 30 days before it gets brought up. So we try to help out the builders out here, as well as the each one of the homeowners that want to do something.
So last question for me.
Mhm.
I know that's my new tagline, Ronnie. Is what could we be doing as a board to help you and the other people on the committee? Is there things that we could be doing, should be doing, that would make the process more efficient, more effective, or all of the above?
Yeah, it's been a concern of mine. We push Patty and Scott and everybody. We do this every meeting. We talk about dead trees. There's numerous dead trees in this community, which can be very dangerous. Trees fall on little kids, fall on people, fall on their property. And it seems like we have been asked not to move forward in a timely fashion with citations, putting out an actual citation, giving the homeowner 2, 3, 4, 5 months to get around to possibly taking down a dead tree. And there are some very tall trees out here that if they fall, they're going to take out a good portion of a home. And that's a concern of mine. Or God forbid, some little kid has a big limb fall on. And it's always a possibility. So that's my pet peeve. And I bring it up. Rich can attest to this. I bring it up every meeting. And Patty has a list, and she has, I believe it was 69 trees so far this year have been removed at the ACC's request and direction. People don't move on that very fast because it's going to cost, depending upon the size of that tree, it could go up to $2,000 to $3,000. So they're not real happy about moving forward with it. But I feel that it's something that we should, and I would need the support of you guys to, allow Patty to move forward with giving out citations a little quicker than we have in the past. And that would be my request.
I think when I was, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ronnie.
Pete, have you looked at any other communities? I know some architectural control committees have their rules that state that you get notice and you have so many days, and then the committee has the authority to hire a professional to come do it and add it to your dues.
Well,
So how far would you?
I don't know how that would go over, but no, I have not looked at anything like that.
Would it be possible for your committee to suggest a format that we could enact that would have timelines?
Well, that would be a rule
alternatives?
change. That would be a rule change, and I'd have to work with George and his group to do a rule change
Certainly.
on that.
I know the HOA that I was in, that's exactly what would happen if
Yeah.
you didn't respond in a certain amount of time. That
Right.
when you come home, your tree
Yeah.
would be gone and your next month's bill would be that much higher.
Yeah. I've got one as my pet peeve is over on Hogan. I'm not going to name names or anything, but I've been fighting for it for 7, 8 months now, and it's still standing today. So, and there's no consequence. If you're not giving out an actual citation, you can give warnings all day long, and if they don't feel like doing something, they don't do it. So, that's again what I would encourage. So, and I'll check on that, Ronnie, about what we can do. Yeah.
Doc, turn it on. It's on. Yeah. You're gonna say something on trees?
In the governing documents, it states 2 weeks minimum to cure any curable offense. After that, the POA can issue a citation and take care of itself, like we do with grass. We do cut after a certain amount of time, and if somebody doesn't cut their grass, we send a citation. Public Works mows it. We charge the fine, so we can do that. A lot of times with the trees, and everybody knows Matt, and some of them, sometimes he's got a backlog of 2 months before he gets to you, and he sets a priority for what he thinks is a dangerous tree or necessity. So we kind of follow Matt's tree service or whoever is doing it to set their schedule for what they think is the most dangerous tree.
I just think we talked about this a year or two ago, and the biggest concern was it's hard to write a ticket when the POA has property that the POA owns that has dead trees on it that aren't removed. So it'd be hard to write someone a citation. Was this conversation 12, 18 months ago? Just FYI. Acre trail down by Little Fox Pond's pretty ugly with dead trees and a dumpster.
Well, the only thing I can say, we're on Matt's list and we're on a 2 to 3 week hold till he can get to us. Our trees aren't dead, but they're hanging over the house, and $2,000 or $3,000 to cut down a tree is a lot cheaper than my deductible and then reworking my house. So that's if it's, I don't understand that thought process.
I can't talk for what other people are thinking, but I had a neighbor about a year ago. He had a tree and it fell on the back of his house, and it cost him nearly $10,000 to repair his house. People don't think long term about that tree, how tall it is and if it's going to fall on their house, and they just don't get around to thinking about it. So I don't know if we can get, the agreement to push forward and push it a little bit harder. That's, like I said, that's my pet peeve is dead trees. So, okay, what else?
Yeah, one other thing, Pete, look and see the volume of the permits, and they fall into different buckets, and then they'll slide from year to year. Just wondering, over the last 3, 4, 5 years, has the volume of total permits gone up, down?
I think it's a little bit up, but it consistently is in that range. It's more dependent on the type of permit, especially the new home bills. 5 years ago, we were having a lot more home bills than we're having now, just because we don't have lots available to build a new one. It's a tear down and then a rebuild in most of the cases.
So basically, the workload for permits has basically stayed the same, just in a different bucket.
Yeah, it goes into a different bucket. Anything else?
Other questions? All right. I think I heard Ronnie make a suggestion with Rich in regard to researching. So I would suggest he just research those other HOAs, I think is what you were talking about, and look at POAs and see what they do. So,
right. Will do.
All right. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you for your committee for doing all this stuff. I know some of them may not be fun, so I appreciate
it's
it.
fun. We enjoy.
All right. Okay.
You want to do this or you want to? Okay.
So, Rich, you going to do it or Pete?
Yeah.
All right. Next item of business is Constitution of 813 and 815.
All right, now just make a note too. This is Constitution, so basically a lot with an existing house is being combined with a vacant lot. So we're losing one of the vacant lots we have for a potential build. Cecil, just to go back to you, a few years ago, I think the high was 27 or 29 new homes in a year. The year previous to last, we were down to 4. And last year, I think we had 12. So from where we were doing 25, 27, 29 homes, we dropped down to 4, 12, and I think we're at like 8 this year. So to continue with this is on the east side, lots 1107 and 1108. Mr. Cobb has an existing house. He wants to add a garage extension. He owns the lot next door. It's a vacant lot. To add the garage, he has to move his septic to the vacant lot. So this was reviewed by the ACC. They're recommending it to the board for approval. We also have a letter from the Cook County, which has already approved the septic revision. So I'll just run through visually for you. You can see where their house is, and it backs up to 211. So they're going to add a garage to the rear of the house. To the north, they're going to move the septic. This is what the plat looks like of the two lots combined. This will go to Cook County. Their Board of Commissioners will review this and sign off on it as well after they receive the board minutes. So you can see kind of how the garage gets added onto the back to the rear property line. This is what it looks like. So it's a side view of what the garage will look like, both from both sides and the rear to 211. The Cook County approval letters, which we received, as well as the proof that he owns both properties. So it meets all the requirements. Like again, ACC has reviewed this and recommends it to the board for approval. And these board minutes will go to the county, and then they'll come back. Affidavit will be supplied by the owner, basically to prove the combination of lots. Any questions?
Rich, I've got one. Just that when you look at the drawing, the back of that garage goes right all the way up to the 10-foot.
That's correct.
Easement, and we just want to make sure that they know where that property line is, and that when they go to do that, lay that pad and put that building up, that they're inside of that 10-foot.
Every new construction and every addition has a form board survey required before they pour concrete.
Any other discussion? Any other questions? Is there a motion to constitute those lots? Chris and Dan? All right. Chris makes a motion to consolidate or constitute 1107 and 1108. Those will be the lots that are there. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. No opposed, and so approved to constitute those lots 1107 and 8, 9-0. Next item on our agenda is golf committee rules and procedures. I think that's you, Ronnie.
I think it is. Y'all have in your packet. Rich, do you have them on the slides? Okay. They've been back and forth several times to the golf committee. They've been to the rules committee. This is the most recent draft. The golf committee has approved them in their present form. We discussed a couple of issues and there have been several comments. The primary one is the removal of the age restriction. The primary concern is having younger children out there playing, and who's going to monitor it and who's going to check their little IDs that they don't have. So that's the primary topic that I've had discussed from various members that they would like to see. That Randy Howell called me and said he would like to see that to be at 12 years old, that being because that's the age at which they can get a permit to use the golf carts on the premises. That I don't know.
To use a golf cart. Question. It's Melanie saying.
Any questions?
Is it 13, Melanie? 13, Melanie says, to use the golf cart on the premises.
So if you reduce the age restriction, are you reducing it to 13 or taking it out altogether?
It was taken out altogether.
Altogether. Okay. So if they're 12 or 10, they have to walk? I'm just asking.
Or ride with
Just
their parents.
asking.
If their parents can be there.
Right. I'm sorry. Ride with someone else. What? I agree, but that's the concern, I think, of members is that they'll be out there playing without adult supervision. So if that were the case, they would be walking. Would it be correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. Just trying to clarify what it says. All right.
Or 13 or 14-year-olds driving the golf cart.
Now that could be true too. All right. Any discussion? Any other questions?
On the days open, I think the par 3 is still closed on Tuesday, correct?
Correct.
It's just not noted in this day's open. It just says Monday is off and it doesn't say anything about par three. Don't know if we all care, but just
Is that an addition that you want to make?
If someone else will say it specifically. Yeah, I just think.
Where are you looking for it to be?
in that day's open, again, it just references Mondays being off for certain. I think you should probably say except for the part three, which is Mondays and Tuesdays would just be my recommendation. I didn't catch that last time, but just thought about it.
Is that something when you want to make on there? Ronnie, make that adjustment?
It's certainly up to the board. Jim?
We recognize Jim Adams.
Thank you. I'm on the golf committee, and so just want to clarify. I don't think we may have had. I don't think there's a rule that said it was closed Monday and Tuesday. If it was, then we intentionally dropped that off. And I will say the golf committee is considering and waiting. They were waiting till next month to get a couple more committee members that matter there, ex officio members matter to decide to open up the par three on Monday and close it on Tuesday. And then the staff can rotate their staff. So that's a consideration. So, and we knew we may have to come back and change that wording again. So I think it's okay how it is, and we'll clarify it in a month or two.
The way it reads right now is the pro shop and golf courses, so it doesn't specify which, are generally open Tuesday through Sunday, weather permitting, and occasionally Monday and then closed on Tuesday.
Correct. That's the way it is right now. And the intention, or the golf committee is considering recommending to you guys to flip-flop so we can get more people on the par three and utilize it more often and relieve the current course also.
Totally for that. I think the part three should be open on Mondays. Totally agree. But do we want to write that down then? Do we want to kick that?
Decide it now.
Reason we didn't move forward. The reason we didn't move forward before is because we had 5 members of the golf committee absent. And we thought it'd be better to get everybody back and home from vacation so that we could get a consensus of doing that. We've talked it over at length with our pro and also with our greenskeeper, and he's amenable to doing that. He has to change the schedule around, but he thinks he can do that fine.
So Nancy, are we going to go through these vote one by one, or are we going to try to do it one fell swoop?
It's up to you as a board. Unless you have other changes that you would like to see as far as you've got several different sections. You've got 1.7, 2.7, and category 9.
Just to make a point, these were all approved at the previous meetings. So these are already all approved as is, unless you want to make revisions to specific ones to go off for review again, because we still have another 30 days until the next board meeting.
So unless anyone on the board wants to pull one out, then they would go as one. Somebody else have another question in regard to any 1.7, 2.7, or category 9? Anyone else? Ronnie?
I make a motion to approve them as drafted en masse.
So that they would go to the members for approval or for feedback and comments. Is that what you're saying?
We've already done that.
Well, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking, because then we have people that are coming back and saying other stuff. So I'm just asking. No revisions?
Then through them. The motion is that we approve them as drafted.
After comments from the members, correct? Okay. All right, because we've already had comments from the members, right? So,
You don't minimum 30 days. You have to wait till next month to adopt them. So this is just for revisions.
do we have any revisions? Okay. So then at this point in time, there isn't a motion to be made because they're already out there for member comment. Unless somebody disagrees with me. I'm trying to make sure we're with the right place. Is that right? Okay. So no revisions, no additions that we have to do. The members still have them for their comments and they can still provide additional comments until we look at them again in July. And they'll have met their 30 plus days. That's correct. Uh-huh. And so then they went out to the members after the last meeting, and the meeting that we had was less than 30 days from now. And so it will go to July, or we can actually act on them at that point in time. So the members still have them if they want to make comments.
So Ronnie, would you want to amend to open the golf court, the par 3 on Monday? Or wait and discuss that later?
Wait until after the golf committee meets again.
Okay.
All right. Nothing else on that? Okay. Members should still have the opportunity to comment on those proposed golf rules. All right. Next item of business on the agenda is the Rules and Procedures Committee. Dan Bessie, in regard to a new rule 3.3.1.13A, sexual harassment.
Nice. So this is pretty straightforward. We've sent out a version of this for member comment. We've gotten a variety of comments back. Some more procedural comments, like how would this work? People that aren't familiar with the current kind of rules process. We have people, as you've heard earlier, that aren't for it, and we actually have some comments that are positive. So what we really did is, the rules process and action continue to get feedback. And since we are, want to make sure we do this in a way that it reflects as much community involvement and feedback as we can, James went back through the last version, made the red line comments you see there to make it as clear and explicit as possible. So the request right now is to resend or send this newer version back out for member comments to be brought back to the board in 30 days.
So what you're trying to do, if I understand correctly, is pull back the one that we sent out after the May meeting?
I wouldn't say pull back. I'd say, we sent it out for member comments. We got a variety of comments across the board. And based on those comments, James, went back through this and, had some additional suggestions based on our discussions and the feedback.
So we will just send the new version out for public comment.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? And is there a motion to do so? Chris? All right. Makes the motion to send the revised 3.3.1.13A sexual harassment back out to the members. Is there a second? Dan? All right. Any discussion?
I just think we're still being very short-sighted, looking only at a sexual harassment policy and not looking at a global harassment policy that might include sexual harassment and beefing up what we have. Because like James said, we've pointed out certain regulations that have nothing to do with sexual harassment. So that's my opinion.
So respectfully disagree. Have you read the HUD regulations?
I have read the HUD regulations, and it doesn't talk anything about sexual harassment. It's all about making a safe and which goes along with all of harassment. And you're being very narrow-minded by just looking at it on a sexual harassment basis.
Okay. In discussions with our attorney and others, the biggest exposure to the POA is sexual harassment. So that is why we chose to move this one along first, because this is where our liability is. And it's also around what kind of community do you want to have? Do we want a safe, secure, respectful community? And this is what helps us do that. So we have a community that explicitly says this type of behavior is not appropriate. This is not an employee rule, right? There is a rule that talks about harassing an employee, which is bullying, yelling, using profanity, doesn't cover sexual harassment. Now, this covers everyone else. And as we talked about last time, this is about an environment. Do you want your wife, your daughter, your best friend to be here and have something bad to happen? And they go to the POA and say, I need some help. And the POA says, sorry, I can't help you. That's not a community that I want to live in. And that's not a community I think most of us want to live in. To your end, coming up with reasons to push this away without discussing it on the merits is hard. So if you'd like to get this passed, and then I'll partner with you and George to get all the other protected classes added to the rule, I'll work 100 hours a day or a week to get that done.
So we want to work harder instead of smarter.
I didn't say that. I said I'd be happy to work with you if you take the lead to include the other protected classes if that's what you really think. My understanding of what your comments are is we should not do this because you don't like it and are using that as a rationale to table it. So I'd rather move forward, help protect the POA, help create a community that we can feel comfortable and good about, and then follow up with those other items, because this absolutely is our biggest exposure. This is, a place that if someone sued us because we won't help them, having this rule would make it our liability less.
Okay. So somebody else? John?
Yeah, I like the idea of going back to an overarching type of thing that covers across the board instead of trying to individualize each type of harassment that we might have here. I heard that we've existed for a long time without, I don't know how many issues we've had around here or that type of thing in the history. But I think an overarching and not individual rules for every type of harassment is more what I'm in favor of.
But
Just hold on. Does anybody else have any other comments? Bonnie?
Nancy, I don't believe that this is our biggest exposure to lawsuits in the community, anywhere close. I believe it's an issue that we should address. I believe it should be addressed generally and not so specifically. I think addressing it in the way we're doing now enhances the possibility that we're going to be sued. We are prosecuting someone under this guideline in a very haphazard way based on the perception of someone that has filed a complaint. Our whole criminal justice system, which is designed to discourage people from doing things we don't want them to do, is based on the intent of the perpetrator. And this is primarily initiated and based on the perception of the person making the complaint. I think we need to be very careful in drafting a rule that approaches it that way. And so I think the safest way to do that is to identify the behavior, whether it's harassment sexually, whether it's harassment by any other means, and cover it in one general rule that we can apply fairly with the same system, with a complaint and an assessment by security and a citation being issued, and then it going to the rules committee, and then here if someone wishes to.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other discussion? So you have a motion on the floor. Is that correct? I still have a motion on the floor to send it forward as revised for member comment. Are you ready for the question? All right. All those in favor of sending it forward back to the members, please raise your hand. Okay. So there's 3. And those opposed, raise your hand. All right. The motion is defeated, and we will not send this revised back out to the members for comment. And so I would encourage you to work together. Several of you that said you wanted to work together and putting one together that had an overarching view. If it's important to you, then let's get it done and let's look what that looks like.
I have a procedural question. So since we sent this out at least once for member comment, so if we don't send it out again, what do we need to do? So we already sent it out once. So I just don't understand how that works.
So at this point in time, it would still be out there for member comment because we haven't had 30 days. And so in July, it will come back. The one, not this version, but the original version will. And then at that point in time, the board has a decision to make whether or not you want to put that into a rule or defeat it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. You can tell me now. Was that right? Is that okay? Just making sure. Just making sure. All right. Okay. Next item on the agenda are rules pertaining to the watercraft 3.3.6.3. So George, you want to take them individually?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right.
First, I want to thank Carolyn and her committee. They put in a lot of hard work, a lot of hours. And we know as the Rules Committee how hard that was because we've been dealing with it for years. So thank you very much. And to Mark, the reason they're not all presented at one time, we're trying not to boil the ocean. And we wanted extra time to get input from some of the same people you got input from, share those videos and information that you use to make your decision. So we just need a little extra time to do that. All right, first one is watercraft operation restrictions. And reviewing this rule and the recommendations made by the ad hoc committee, we find that there's really no need to change the rule because the chief will be revising the boater safety course to include the recommendations from the ad hoc committee. And there was an age restriction here, which is already part of Rule 3363. So we see no reason to modify that rule, but we did take the recommendations from the committee and the chief is working on revising the boater safety course. Any questions on that?
So George, so there is no action to be taken. There's no revision to be given to that? Is
No,
that
ma'am.
correct?
That's what we're saying.
Okay. Then I would ask at what date will that be completed? At what date would that be completed and implemented so that we can inform our members? And I would say that from the committee's perspective, post haste would be the recommendation.
The chief has said she'll do it at the week after July 4th.
The week after July 4th.
July 4th.
So is that when it goes into place?
Give her time to put it together, maybe
Okay.
July. She'll have it completed by July.
Okay. So that it'll go into, hopefully it'll come to the board and we can look at it at the end at our July meeting. Okay. That'd be great. All right. Thank you, George.
All right. Second, reckless operation 336.17. The ad hoc committee had those recommendations you see in red. And we think this additional verbiage would clarify reckless operation and make it easier to enforce by security. So we'd like to add those things in red to that rule.
Is there a motion to make those recommendations? We're going to do this one 3.3.6.17. Is that what we're on?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? Okay. And he George just went through and asked to amend with the proposed additions. Okay. So the chair heard Cecil make the motion to approve the additions to 3.3.6.17 reckless operation
As recommended by the Rules Committee.
as recommended by the Rules Committee. And Chris, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Dan?
I believe during the ad hoc committee, there was a discussion about how close. And the first bullet point here says near docks and shorelines. So I was just trying to understand, is there other rules coming later that would define that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Dylan?
So 2 questions. So I heard you say the Rules Committee is looking at other items relating to every rule and making a decision. So are you guys not taking the specific recommendations from the ad hoc committee and papering them up and pushing those through?
That is correct. We take the recommendations, we review them, we talk about them. We may or may not agree that that's something that should be added to a rule or change a rule. That's our job. If you wanted to take their recommendations, you wouldn't need to have a rules committee.
I was under the impression we had the ad hoc committee to do these rules and you would paper them up, but that's how I understood it.
So we'll come back to that and address it in just a second. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion in regard to reckless operation?
So in addition to that, I had similar comments to Mark. We had these batch of rules we looked at, and I think they feed off each other. Some of the specific verbiage in the minutes where we want to merge this, merge that, look at that from the ad hoc committee. So my suggestion would be to run them all together. I hear what you're saying about boiling the ocean. However, I think they all feed off each other.
That's a decision the board can make.
Well, and for me, it's just a matter of fact of knocking out those that we know are pretty set and solid right now. And there are some that are still need some work and under review. And we would make that cycle another 30 days or 60 days if we don't at least push some of these that are the more straightforward and get them approved on the books.
So George, are these additions the one that came from the committee?
They are.
They are? Okay. So everything that the committee had on this particular rule is on here. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
All right. Any other discussion in regard to 3.3.6.17 reckless operation? All right. All those in favor of approving those rules so that they go to the membership for member comment. Is that correct? Is that where we are?
We have one more. We're
Doing them one at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
So are we approving this one to go to the members for comment? And so we have a motion on the floor to do so. No other discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand if you want to send them to the members for comment. All right. And those opposed? All right. And so you have 7-2. These rules will go to the members for comment. This rule, excuse me, let's say rules. I apologize. Rule 3.3.6.17 reckless operation will go to the members for comment. All right. And George?
The third and final one is a proposed new rule, 3.3.6.2A maximum boat length. And this is taken right from the recommendation from the ad hoc committee to limit maximum boat length for pontoon boats 26 feet, all other motorized watercraft at 24 feet.
I move that we table this till the other rules come out.
All right. There's a motion on the floor to table this 3.3.6.2A maximum boat length until the other rules come out. Is that correct? Is that what your motion was? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. 5 for tabling it. Those opposed to tabling it? All right. Okay. 4. All right. So the motion passes that we will table this rule, not rules, this rule 3.3.6.2A, maximum boat length until the other rules are brought forward.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. And so the chair will address a little bit of the questions that came up before. And so the chair, as president, as chair, the Rules Committee has that purview. And whenever we gave the charge to the Watercraft and Lake Rules Committee, we said that we asked them to approve recommendations for all the watercraft and lake rules, and that they would go to the Rules Committee and as recommendations. And so that's what they did. They went to the Rules Committee for recommendation. And then the chair also let them know that if they needed to bring something forward, they felt like was ready to do so. And the reason I personally made that decision is because when I looked at the committee minutes and everything, these particular rules that came forward are ones that had almost unanimous, either unanimous or super majority, I think is what at one point in time people talked about, approval. And so I said, bring them forward. Let's let the members talk about them so that we can get the comments. So that's the reason the rules are the way they were. That's the reason they were broken up, because I took the committee's recommendation on what was passed or unanimous or whatever, so we could get those out there for members to start talking about. So that's the reason they're there. So if you want to pick on anybody, it would be me, not George. Okay. All right. George does like it, but I will tell you that I will protect every member here if I make a decision, and I made it, and so you can talk to me. Okay. So moving forward, these are always fun to do. So just in case anybody wants to be president next year, you need to run for the board. Don't forget to do that. So
Nancy, can I make one more comment?
you can.
In regards to the tabling of the rule, 3.3.6, 2A maximum boat length. If all the research that you go out and you can go look and you can look to see what a 600, and I use a 600-acre lake as a baseline, as to what the recommendations would be for boat motorcraft length or watercraft length size. Cruising, entertaining, pontoon boats, deck boats, etc., 20 to 24 feet. Fishing boats, 16 to 18 feet. Water sports, skiing, waking, etc., 19 to 23 feet. So I felt that the recommendations that came forward from that ad hoc committee were just and I would say fair. So I don't know where we think tabling and pushing this backwards is going to get us, because the recommendations, you can go out there and see it in site after site after site, that will tell us exactly, where those links probably should be. And they were lenient on that.
Thanks, Cecil. Any other comments? All right, moving forward, community manager report. Rich?
I'll start off with some funding requests, but I'll have Scott help me with a couple of these. Just behind the community manager report, I kind of did an updated carve sheet. It had all the items that we discussed at the workshop session, so you can see all those items and just see the tally totals. So I'll let Scott take over for the first item up for the funding request.
Thanks, Rich. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, fellow members. So welcome to a fine looking new beach shower. We've been having issues with the current one, and we're looking about a year and a half now that the issue is the
West Beach and East Beach have the same beach shower. The issue with the East Beach one is we have a very unique species of a woodpecker that's basically pecking its way through the material of the current shower, and they're getting through the insulation. So in wintertime, is the reason why the current one is non-operable, because it froze inside, and so we're looking to replace a little bit nicer version. This is basically an ADA version, ADA on one side, non-ADA on the other. Plus, it has the handrails for support. This one here, it's got basically 4 showers on each side and 2 foots on each side. I looked at quite a few of these. This particular one I thought was really nice. We're looking at not to exceed 7,000 for the purchase of this, and then we can also have a different color, which is nice. Stainless steel with the powder coat should be suffice for the East Beach area, and I don't think we'll have woodpecker problems. This is currently what our shower looks like now, and due to high demand, I've received several emails from a lot of East Beach goers that they missed their shower. So I present to you this newer version, not to exceed for 7,000. Basically, your typical 1-year warranty. The nice thing is the faucets and the push buttons are readily available if we need to replace it at Home Depot. Any questions?
I move to approve the 2 new showers not to exceed $7,000.
Is there a second? John? All right. Is there any discussion? Does this mean that the woodpeckers will not pick on this one? Stainless steel? They won't get through. Okay. Just asking.
Sure. Let me go back. Let me show you this. This particular material is like a hardened polymer plastic, and the fact that they can do a perfect oval. But you can't see, but they get into the insulation. So this is a non-stainless steel version. So I think if we go stainless steel, we'll be okay.
You might hire them for their work, along the way.
Very good carpenters for homes.
Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All right. That was good. Sorry.
Thank you.
It was off the record, yes. All those in favor of putting in a new East Beach shower not to exceed 7,000. All right. All those opposed, is there any? None. 9-0. And you've approved a new shower for the woodpeckers there. All right. All right, Rich, you're on.
Next one is, this was a recommendation from the golf committee. They're requesting one new trash can for every one of the 18 holes. Currently, there's about 9 trash cans out there. They get overloaded, and we've removed 9 over the years and haven't replaced any. So the request is to duplicate what we have at the driving range and what was at the pavilion of the Little Wolf Park. They're about $500 each, actually a little bit over the $10,000 requested. Ways and Means reviewed this and recommends the approval. Can pick up the slack with O&M funds. But basically looking at putting one of these at each hole, so be able to take basically the trash demand that's on the course. And they'd like the look to be consistent to what we purchased at the other places. I don't know if Ronnie has anything to add.
The golf committee, at the request of our greenskeeper, reduced the number we had. Only 9 of the ball washers that could be repaired sufficiently to put back out on the course after we pulled them off. And so we decided to have 9 of the ball washers and 9 of the trash cans close to them. And then during the recent tournaments, that's become unworkable because people run out of places to put whatever they brought onto the course. There seems to be a plethora of beer cans. And so we thought that it would be good to go ahead and keep the place clean, looking nicer, and then be consistent with the par 3. So the golf committee voted to spend the funds and recommend that we go forward and replace them with the new ones.
Could I make a statement?
Chris?
As a member of the Kiwanis, we have made every effort to collect all the beer cans we could on the course. We have currently put blue barrels in keeping with the other blue barrels that are trash cans out there. We've got them at 4-5 with the bathroom break. We've got them at 13 with the bathroom break. We've got them at Little Fox Pond, big bathroom break there. So I said 13, yeah. Not to mention the ones we've got around the pavilion and the patio. And then we've got a barrel over on the par 3. Okay, so I would encourage the golfers to save those cans and support the Kiwanis. I realize they got lots of trash in those golf carts and they drink lots of cold beer. But that'd just be my 2 cents from the Kiwanis anyway.
So that will make the trash cans last longer if they do that, right? Okay, all right. Dan?
So I move to approve spending the money not to exceed $11,000 to buy 18 new trash cans for the golf course, the 18-hole golf course.
All right, is there a second? Ronnie, all right. Now the Ways and Means approved 10,000, is that correct?
Ways and Means doesn't approve, right? But
Recommendation.
they recommended that this was a viable project to pursue. And at that time, I guess we didn't consider the tax. So it was presented to the Ways and Means as not to exceed 10. So I think we're in the spirit of what the Ways and Means reviewed.
Thank you. And for those of you that are listening in that didn't hear that, it appears that Summer's prank is the blue trash cans and throwing them in the lake. So please don't do that because that hurts the Kiwanis, and then that will mean that we have to pick up trash faster along the way, correct? And the cost for just so those of you that can't see what's the invoice is $9,955. That's the reason they did 10,000. But as Dan said, they didn't include the tax on that. And so, all right, you have a motion to approve not to exceed $11,000 for purchase of trash cans for the golf course. All in favor? Those opposed? All right. You're saying, okay, 8-0 and 1 abstention. And it does pass, and you will get some new trash cans that are out there. Rich?
To make a note, and I don't know if it was stated, but this is out of the golf course reserve fund. The previous was under the asset replacement ARF, just to delineate that. It's on there, but I don't think anybody stated it. Next one up doesn't have a slide, but you have in your packet an estimate to replace the sand and repair the bunkers. And this would also be out of the golf course reserve fund. Just a note, we had $70,000 scheduled. And as you can see, the sand alone is about $100,000. Also in that estimate is basically to completely repair all of the bunkers, kind of worst case scenario. You can kind of look at the pea gravel and the polymer. If they have to replace half the bunker, you could basically cut that cost in half, so it may be less. But regardless, we'll have to send this out, advertise it for an RFP to get additional bids. But this is basically the complete scope. and almost kind of like a worst case scenario of what the cost would be. It may only be 160, but we want to plan on worst case.
Those funds to come from where?
Of course, reserve fund.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion or any other discussion that we need?
Just to add to Rich, I mean, this did get reviewed by Ways and Means and
They
Yeah.
made that recommendation?
recommendation to move forward, yes.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion to not to exceed?
I make that motion.
All right. Ronnie, I'm sorry. And Dan, all right. Ronnie makes the motion to approve not to exceed $190,000 for replacing the sand bunkers on the 18-hole golf course. Is that correct? All right. And Dan seconds it. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving, oh, and you have to go out for RFP, I also believe, yes.
Over 50,000. The only just point of information. So right now, the golf course reserve fund has low $700,000 in it. So if we take out, $10,000 for trash cans, 180-ish $1,000 for, the sand, which we in my opinion, absolutely need to do. That puts that fund that's already been in a little under stress, is more stress. So it's just a matter of degrees, but just wanted to make sure everyone understood that this is between the two things, 20 plus % of the entire reserve fund.
Nancy, point of interest. If you do research on sand bunkers, there are various aspects to a bunker from the bunker itself, the shape of it, the sand that's in it, the bottom structure for drainage. If you look, 5 to 7 years is what's predicted for sand life expectancy. We put these bunkers refurbed in 2018, so it's been 8 years ago. So I mean, it's just something that we have to look out for ongoingly as a budgeted expense, as a line item. That it could like everything else, it could last longer, but you're in that 5 to 7 to 8 year range where you may have to spend this amount of money for 21,000 cubic yards of sand.
In another 8 years, right? Okay. And if it's like everything else, it'll go up. So plan ahead, plan accordingly, right? So you will go out for an RFP, right? So all those in favor of approving the not to exceed $190,000 for the sand bunkers, raise your hand. All those in favor? And those opposed? No opposed. It does pass. We have approved that expense, and we do need an RFP for that. And that will make sure that the Ways and Means Committee gets to look at that also. All right. Okay, Rich, I think you're on next.
Next one is a proposal from Lake Management Committee to start a water quality testing program. Going forward, we'd like to budget it out of O&M, but we'd like to start the process with the lake management funds. It would be a complete, like across the board initial test, testing for harmful algae, blue-green algae, E. coli, all the qualities of the water, phosphorus, chlorophyll, all those things, a complete span of all the tests. From there, we can always pull back, but the initial one, we'd like to do a complete test. 1 sample from each cove, 2 from the main body of the lake. You have the costing and the price on there. Mobilization and for them to come out here is about $2,000 as well. So the total estimated cost is $10,000 or just under. Is the proposal reviewed by Ways and Means and recommended by Ways and Means? Cecil can talk to it anymore, but part of the recommendation is going forward for it to be budgeted in the O&M as a yearly program.
And again, we are a private lake, but if you look at public waters, all public waters everywhere have a water quality testing program that tests a number of attributes. I've fielded questions, sort of surprisingly, but not so, I guess not so much, from community members asking, "I catch fish, are they safe to eat?" When I stand there and I say I can't tell you, I don't know, because we don't do any program testing, or E. coli, or even we've had instances in the last 2 to 3 years of algae bloom, blue-green algae blooms that people have seen, don't know where we are. Thank goodness they dissipated and went away, but where are we with E. coli and blue-green algae and alkalinity and hardness? And, so to have a standard program that we're going to go forward on is a must, I think, for this community, for the lake.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Chris, all right, approves, motions to approve not to exceed $10,000 for lake water quality testing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rick? All right. Is there any discussion? Ronnie, you started right there.
Cecil, is there any possibility to check for zebra mussels when we do this?
That's a different that's water quality. They basically just put a metal plate in, wait, and take that out. But we can do that test too. We can almost do it ourselves, because if any metal piping, it'll be there. It's just a visual test.
It wouldn't take very long if we had anything in the water. Even though they're microscopic, they would go on to anything of the testing material. We'd find out they'd be on our posts, our dock posts in the water, and they'd be everywhere pretty quick.
Do you have anything?
I had that exact same question. People have asked me about specifically, do we have them since we have the specific rule? So I answered, I don't think we've taken a specific test, but I always, any lake stuff, I kind of defer to you. So if you get a call, you're welcome.
Any other discussion? I do have a question. So you're doing a water quality testing. And so is there a standard that the water has to be?
I couldn't say what the standard is. Everything has a certain level it's supposed to be at, but it'll be measured off of those levels.
Okay, so you have a standard that you're testing toward, right? And is there a plan or anticipation of what we would do if in any form or fashion we fall out of range?
If we're using pond medics for this, but pond medics, but also use Solitude, they have different programs with the blue gene algae, like what to do, either additives, how to address it, other methods depending on what it is. Likewise, if your pH values to how you put something else in, it'll be different for everything.
Just asking because I can see that come back, right? Especially with all the rain like we had today and everything pours in. So yes, just today.
Likewise, all the fertilizer coming in, there's things they can do about that.
Exactly. Okay.
But I'd say it'd be much better to know and understand on a testing program where we see attributes and find it maybe just barely on the high side, than to wait until we have a real problem, and then
Costs a lot more.
and it escalates.
Mhm. And so this also creates a benchmark for us. So then we anticipate doing it on an annual basis. Did I hear you say? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All right. Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving that amount not to exceed 10,000, raise your hand. All right. And those opposed? The ayes have it. Kendall, it's 9-0. All right, Rich, I think you're still up.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this one to Scott again for his request.
Once again, thank you. So this is definitely not a remote control version. This is a full scale stump grinder. I'm requesting the purchase of a stump grinder due to the fact that between Public Works and I think golf maintenance, we spend about maybe 20 to 30,000 a year for tree trimming, and a lot of the times the trees are cut down, but the stumps are left. So I basically counted 13 stumps just at the nature trail, and nobody likes to look at the tree stumps that are in the way. And in the past, we used to just we try to take care of some of the ones that we were able to with a chainsaw, and just chainsaw is a little bit more dangerous. So we do very little chainsaw work on some of the smaller trees. We tend to handle. But I looked at several different attachments. We do have our track steer as well, and there's several of us that can operate it pretty well. And so in your packet, you'll see not to exceed 12,000. Also includes a cab protection, because we don't currently have one right now. So that's one of the things that is recommended to have. But it's a simple hydraulic attachment that allows us to grind the stumps. We have, I believe, over 30 stumps at the par 3 that we had Matt's Tree Service do for us last year. So basically, this is kind of what we're looking at here. Some of these I located on the par 3. I think these are the same. My bad. So this particular one with shipping and the protective, so it comes at 11,281.15, not to exceed 12,000. I also, in your packet, I did a cost analysis in comparison between hiring an arborist and also purchasing the stump grinder. And that's assuming that we use it 13 times a year, or stump grind 13 a year, and we already have well over that number. But based off that number, we after owning it for about 2 years, it'll pay for itself. Any questions?
Just note would be out of CARF as an initial purchase, and then it will go on to ARF for replacement. So it'll be added to our ARF liabilities.
We sent them they know what we have, right? Yeah. A lot of these stump grinders and those hydraulic mulchers, we run out of hydraulic horsepower. So we sent them what skid loader you got, right?
That is correct. Did that with the beach cleaner too.
Any questions for Scott? Is there a motion? Chris, you have a question? All right. Ronnie moves to spend an amount not to exceed $12,000 for a stump grinder and a shield. All right, and second it. Chris seconds it. Any discussion?
I'm a little envious of Scott and his financial analysis there. Very impressive. If you want to be board treasurer someday, I think you have potential.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving an amount not to exceed $12,000 for a stump grinder and a shield, raise your hand. All right. It is in no opposed. And so 9-0, Kendall. All right. Moving forward, I think we get to go to someone else. So Mr. Fox, would that be correct?
So. Mine's first. Okay. All right. Test. Okay. So this was what the update was on Constant Contact. I spoke with Sports King today, so let me give you a little bit more of an update than what went out here too. The electrical conduit is what we've been trenching and putting in out there right now. All that conduit is in. They backfilled some of the critical areas where we had by the parking lot and stuff. So that's safe and water district can get across there and everything. But we need to get the rest of the site. They were pumping the trenches out today because it had so much water before they could even backfill. So hopefully that'll be done the next couple of days here. just from a progress standpoint, there's a company called Post Tension Services. They're the ones that fabricated the cables inside of the concrete right now. That's their specialty work. They have to come. They came out once already and did the initial tensioning of those cables on there. There's several steps in doing that. There'll be another step that has to be taken there. We need to do that first because the next step will be looking at a fence, and we have to put a fence footer in. The fence will not be right on the pad. It will be next to it. And so all those cables have got to get cut off and capped and everything after the tensioning. So just to understand that there's a kind of a step-by-step process that we have to follow in order to do some of these things. We've got the light pole piers, which need to be coordinated with that fence footer so that we get those in the right place. But they said they have the light poles ready for delivery. So we're lined up on that. We've got the shelter slab itself and the plaza flat work. This is a fabricated shelter that we'll have, so there'll be 6 columns, and those will have to be set in the concrete when we pour that. So that's been designed by the engineer that did all of that. So and then I was expecting today, Jason said that he's working on the look ahead schedule now, kind of what we're talking about, but putting it on paper so we can get that. Part of the motivation for that too is I know they're interested now also in another draw, and that makes sense. I mean, they've obviously put a lot of money into this right now with the concrete and everything. So we'll get that information and run it by everybody here to see what the next pay request looks like. That's all I have on the pickleball. Anybody have any questions on that?
Similar question as before, but is there anything any one of us can be doing to help keep this moving? Is there anything that we could be doing to, help you or Rich and anyone else?
Well, I appreciate the support on that. I think we're kind of in kind of a groove right now with them and the steps they're moving along. So, I mean, and just like I mentioned, we have to follow certain things in a sequence on there. So, I'm happy with the progress that they're making. It could always be faster, but we have, they're working around the rains too. Again, today they could only pump out trenches and really couldn't do anything. So, pretty typical construction process right now.
Jim, are they providing you with plenty of receipts?
Well,
But well, maybe that's not the right question.
yeah, receipts are probably not what we're looking for. With the documentation we need to be able to understand that they have spent some money on and why they are asking for that. Typically, it's done kind of through percentage of completion of the work and everything. So we'll be looking for that information from them, and if not, then we'll get what we need.
Jim, are they still drawing off of the first draw that we paid?
Yeah, they have not asked or received anything more from us. So we could do the numbers on the concrete and I think show that there's he gave me a number one time, and I pretty much trust, I think that they've almost spent all their money on that. So.
All of our money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it was given to them. So yeah, I guess all right. If no further questions, I'll move on to the trail. This was I just point out too, they did they did bring a drone out and fly it over there. So some of these images are pretty interesting from the aerial point of view. So the Little Wolf Trail project, again, McCrary Property Service is kind of having to work in between the rains, and he's made pretty good progress with that, considering how much rain we've had in June. He's almost got all of the decomposed granite spread, with the exception of some areas where we've got some drainage issues and things I call kind of a trouble spot with drainage right now. The good news is I walked the trail right after that 2.5-inch rain or whatever, and what he's put out has stayed in place pretty well. We've got some minor erosion. again, his plan is put some pipe in where we need it and everything. So we're getting an opportunity to take a look at that. We've got some low areas which we are looking at and discussing with him, raising the trail up a little bit right now, perhaps with a select fill or a road base or something, and then putting the decomposed granite on top of that. So that's one option we're evaluating. Also, we're looking at crossing the drainage channel that runs from the driving range over there. And the first look at a box culvert on that, the box culvert weighed 24,000 pounds. So we're having troubles figuring out how we can move that, short of getting somebody with a very large track hoe or something like that. So we're looking now at maybe a couple of smaller ones. And so that may be a possible way just to do 2 4-footers instead of one big 8-foot, and then we could move it with equipment. So we're looking at that and keeping moving. I got a quote again this morning on some of that. So I just want to point out in the meeting, and maybe there's some people watching out there, I don't know, but we're getting people that are using the trail already. The contractor has been out there. He says, yeah, we've got people running their dogs and using, and when I walked it was full of footprints. There's the granite hasn't been compacted, and there's footprints all over the place. We've got kind of hazard areas with, these low spots and stuff. So we may need to put up a trail closed or area closed or something type of sign out there, because I don't think the updates are getting through to everybody out there. And I had a boy that was out there riding bicycle, and he wasn't on the trail, but he was right next to the driving range on the old dirt kind of access road in there and everything. So it's a safety concern, I guess, right now. And we need the members to kind of heed that warning that there's a problem out there. They're using that trail. That's all I have on the trail. Questions on that? All right. I'll move on. Yes.
Just to say that, do we have some extra barricades that we can put up there in different places and have signs on them?
We have a couple signs, and we can put some more barricades, but it's a large area, like you said, they go on the other parts. We can maybe put some more.
Some of
people
the-
we could do.
Like strategically, like if
Right.
you're on Kiowa Drive there by the old
Yes.
driving range, that would be an easy access point for people. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is we might we can't hit all the areas, but we can certainly hit some strategic spots with that.
Or in weekly, constant contacts, a weekly update.
Every time it's in there in bold red letters. I'll move on to the front gate project status. The contracts, basically we're in negotiation on the contracts. We're going back and forth a little bit with some of the language in there. James has some of that, and we're looking at that, and we hope to meet this week and kind of maybe try to iron some of that out. That's really about where we're at. Like I say, it's just kind of going through those contracts and getting that worked out to our satisfaction, and to some degree what they feel like they can live with too. Any questions on the contract? I'll talk about the traffic plan here in just a second, unless you have any questions about where we're at with that. Okay. Well, Rich, we don't have a slide on this thing. We had a traffic plan that we had proposed, and we showed you at one of your meetings there, with maintaining a lane that goes through there, putting out one of those like shipping containers that are made for office space to house Melanie staff during the construction. And the contractor was a little concerned with that, because his staging area was across the street, and then he's got to move materials back and forth, and was worried about some of that. So we came back and we looked at closing that whole area through there up to the wall where the security kind of parks head in, and using that as a material staging area, which would be really convenient. He said, yes, we can probably work with that. So I'm working hard to try to maintain some form of temporary traffic through there. The exit won't be a problem, but going in and out, it's going to be inconvenient. there's going to be some delays with that. We'll have to get communications out, obviously, as we get going with that, using the East Gate as much as possible. But that's, at least we've got a potential right now. He wants to look at a little bit more on site, but it looks like we can still maintain that one lane of traffic out there. So, any other questions on the front gate? We're close. All right, thank you. Oh, I missed one.
The playgrounds is a quick update if you want to hit that.
Yeah. It's on page 2 here. Well, first of all, it's in my court right now to put together an RFP with the information. I have collected the information from Carol Blair's and the committee. I have all of that information. It's just a matter of now trying to work that in and probably bring it back to that committee and Parks and Recreation at some point also when we get that drafted. And so we can take a look and make certain that we're getting what we want with that, or at least get it proposed to what we want. I will also say we had a playground inspector come out last week, Thursday. And he spent a half a day out here going to the 2 different playgrounds on that. So the good news is our fall surface is great. Did all the impact tests, no problems with that. This playground here at the West Beach, there's really no significant issues that there's some minor things, and in their standards and how they look at that, they'll priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 type hazards. We'll get a written report with that, but just verbally talking with him at the end of that, not too concerned with anything over here. There's a couple of caps on the top that need to be, which simple fixes on this one. So we'd heard some things that there might be play space issues and everything, and there could be. It just it's open to a little bit of interpretation on that. But again, no real significant issues here. East Beach got some issues with the swing. Again, this is pretty simple to correct. I was just talking to Rich and Scott today, so we'll work on that. Probably pull the swings down. Hopefully we could get some hardware and get it back up and running by the 4th here on that. But those are going to need to come down. But just pulling the swings off the chain and the hardware at the top, which is some of the culprits for that. Also, there's a chain ladder on that one, and the supports that they're anchored to, the current standard chains anchors those things underground, and those caps that stick up are a fall hazard. And so we'll need to remove that chain ladder and those things that stick up out of the ground. Otherwise, it's okay. So we've got a few actionable items off of this playground review, and we'll see on that. So glad we did that. And it's there's always so many little things to playgrounds that we don't even think about. I'll give you an example. As we were over there, and he's looking to see these chains. He says, yeah, well, they got a vinyl coat on them. And it's like, you would think that would be good for the kids and have the vinyl coat on there and everything, but you can't tell if the chain is rusted or broken because of that vinyl coat. And so at the national level and all these safety type things, he says that's a no-no. We don't use vinyl coated chains anymore because you can't identify a hazard with that. I mean, who would think of those types of things? And so, I mean, we'll get all that kind of information from him in the report. Any questions on that?
I have one quick update. So we talked about funding. That was an open question after the last meeting at the last Ways and Means. So, and we actually had a discussion with James around, could CARF money be spent on this? So, yeah, so based on that discussion, and James, keep me honest, we do believe going forward, since we're replacing, truly creating a new amenity with the playground, so we'll be tearing them out and totally redoing them, that we could use CARF money. At the Ways and Means, there was a different type of discussion around, with everything that's going on, that we could potentially be spending CARF money on, including if we're making progress on the front gate and spending significant money. Is that the right source of funds? So there was discussion, could this board prioritize the initiation fee money for 2027 towards playgrounds? And that would pretty much cover the cost with the little bit of, a little bit of additional money that could come from CARF or somewhere else. So the position of Ways and Means was initiation fee money would be something they would feel more comfortable with than using CARF funds, since there's so many items going through CARF. And if we did take $280,000 out of playgrounds out of CARF, it would compete against a lot of other projects that we're working on or want to do, and it would potentially make CARF go to a very small number before it could get replenished. So we have flexibility as a board, but the recommendation from the Ways and Means is initiation fee. The downside is that money doesn't become available until 2027. Is that fair, Rich?
We haven't got our RFP and all of those things yet either, so we're not ready to make some of that decision. Okay. All right.
I have a timing question, probably for you. If we needed to spend the money in 2026, could we spend it out of CARF? And as a board, can we send the initiation fee money to the CARF balance?
That's actually a pretty timely question, because that idea has come up and slightly different. I have no idea. That's something that we need to discuss. In my experience, and we have Corky and Jim and other people here that Georgia has been around a long time. They might have a precedence around that, but not that I don't know that it's happening in the past. We'd have to talk about it and look at how that works, especially with CARF not being a restricted reserve fund. It's part of O&M. I don't know. So yeah. Yeah. So we'd have to explore that, but that's a good creative option.
Overall initiation fee was kind of stated to supplement or as part of O&M as well.
Yeah.
Or to fund a certain.
O&M or CARF. So yeah. So.
Or you just use it to fund a certain project out of there. So either way.
Yeah, we figured out. That's a good idea.
Okay. All right, Rich.
So Dylan, I'll take that one.
Just going to do some department updates pretty quick. Last time I mentioned we did the RFP for the fractional HR. So that's in process. The due date's June 30th. We had 4 companies we sent it out to. I have another 3 or 4 that responded to the advertisement. So we'll have a few to review again with the HR committee and admin. Admin is looking forward to having HR support. So the POA admin's in favor of that as well. Public Works. If you notice, we hopefully finally get a replacement shade for the shade structure at the Little Wolf Park. That from the winter got some ice damage and kind of got stretched out, so we have to get a replacement for that. Hopefully we'll get that soon. All the buoys were replaced. We replaced 33 buoys on the lake. And then East Gate cameras similar to the East Beach and the East Gate cameras, how we did the CCTV in here and upgraded that too. We're targeting the East Beach to be our next upgrade. So hopefully we'll come back to you again with that, but that'll be a necessity. We have some repairs going on, one at the 1-lane bridge, and numerous other just maintenance and repairs. Security had 83 hours on the lake for May, over 13,000 guests and works entered through the front gate. 57 citations in total, 34 warnings. Would just like to note too, is compliance had citation and warnings regarding some trees that were out there. I know we have a lot. I think we mentioned the trees. We've done over 60 removed. I think we have another 100 on the list, so it just takes a while to go through. Any other comments on the security report or questions, since we have Melanie
for doing all of the work on the lake. We appreciate him out there, and I see a much reduced number of people violating the rules because they know he's y'all are either out there or you're about to be out there. So thank you.
Yeah, the same for me. And then also, how are we doing this month? And are we ready for 4th of July?
Want to comment on, you had one vaccination citation. Did somebody not get their polio shot?
You notice going back to that, had just a lot of just stray dog incidents. We're still working with that, but we're working our way through it. I think we're making progress.
So again, I will reiterate what's been said is thank you very much on the security on the lake, because I do think it makes a huge difference that's out there. I would also say that, security has to schedule and manage the different things that are there. So it's always a choice as to what you're doing. But there are certain priorities that are out there and we can handle those. And so I appreciate that. All right, Rich, anything else?
Well, just to notice, I mean, we do have a number on the animal calls, over 34 animal calls for the month. Going to lodge, as mentioned in the financial report, we had a very good month. Also for the year, our variance overall for the lodge is a positive. So just sales and budget constraints were in a positive. The pizza oven's working well. The new pizza program's going well. Wine cabinets, we only have 6 left. So anybody wants a cabinet, hurry up. Getting ready for everything for the 4th of July preparation. And then all the events, the concerts are going really well. Any other comments on the lodge or suggestions? I put in the, so you could see some of the financials. We do the financials every month for the lodge. So I kind of put that in there and you can see the bottom line of how well we're doing in the variance overall. Almost 6,000 to the positive. And for the year, just for the sales, we're almost 70,000 to the positive.
Compared to budget.
Compared to budget. Yeah. Yeah. The year before we didn't have a subsidy for the lodge. This year we went back to doing a subsidy to try to actually budget accordingly. So according to that new budget, I think we budgeted about $140,000 subsidy. We're on the positive at the budget variance.
So question for all of you, would it be helpful to take a simplified version of this and put it into the treasurer's report so you could see lodge P&L, for lack of better words, or describe it?
I would say yes. I would say that our members would like to see that.
Yeah, my only, as I say that, the only concern is, right, lodge is one thing, and again, the lodge has done great things. You could do that for other categories if you so wanted. So if we did that, then if someone asked about golf or whatever, you would start to add a bunch of things. So, I mean, really, lodge is the only one that has the opportunity to at least be even, right? The 18-hole golf course, even if we had, a 500% increase in guest fees a day, we would never get close. Roads has no, well, roads is not covered by the reserve fund, but, so I'm just throwing it out there. To me, I always do this myself when I'm going through the financials, but that's what made me think, since Rich put this in here, would it be helpful for you or for the community in general, or both?
I think for our members to know what's going on is very, very good. And so I think putting that information about the lodge, I'm sure our members would like to know how many guests played, over the holidays, or how many guests are out there on the golf course. And as Pete said before, like permits and what's being built and what's going on. So I think any of that information that we can provide would be good. So I'll leave that to the treasurer and the treasurer-elect and the Ways and Means to come up with what that will be. Not treasurer-elect.
I was going to say,
Assistant treasurer.
getting replaced.
Yeah, assistant, yeah. Well, okay, so. That's right. So assistant treasurer, there you go. All right. Anything else, Rich?
Just the golf airification going on today and tomorrow. He's also doing some fertilizing. Looking forward, don't have a date on it, but I think next month he's planning on doing the yardage markers for the driving range. To be constructing those. And I think it's been mentioned a couple of times, and just got another question too about the donated trees. Again, those won't be donated or planted until fall time, so we got a little time for those. And I think one still has to be designated of exactly where it goes. And then I just have a couple updates. Like I mentioned, the compliance. I have the article that was submitted, but I also have some of the May data. As far as the dead tree removal, 3. Lawn maintenance was 10 warnings. Property maintenance, another 3. There were 3 warnings about flags, unauthorized access, dock repair, and a few citations. Any other comments on those? And that is all.
I would direct you to the community manager report. Rich did a very good job of outlining what's going to happen on July 4th weekend. And so people will ask you when the 4th of July fireworks are going to be. So I would ask that you laugh at me. It's very true. And so I would ask you to read that report because people will expect you as a board member to know. And the celebration committee chair also expects you to know. So just so you know. Just so you know. Let's see. Is there any additional business to come before us? I'm not aware of anything, although I do have a question. In the chat meetings and several things over the past several weeks, people wanted to know when the next new member orientation was going to be. And so if that's something that needs to come to the board for us to vote on, I would suggest that we do that in July to vote on it and discuss it. Is that all right? Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Any comments from the members? Yeah, Mark. Sure.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. Mark Tarpley, 1734. I just want to go back, and I wasn't planning on speaking again. I learned something. We were talking about the Watercraft and Rules Committee recommendations, that potentially the Rules Committee has the authority whether or not to advance those recommendations. Considering this is a highly charged topic, I guess I question why that is. Why is it not coming to the board? You 9 were elected to make the decisions on behalf of this community. It should not be up to the Rules Committee to adjudicate the recommendations. They didn't. Now, George was at the meetings, and I appreciate that. That was great. They did not participate in the hours and hours of discussion and debate and email traffic back and forth. They didn't commit their time to that. If they're watching videos that were presented by one person. I would just highly recommend that the board direct that the recommendations come to you. You make the decision. If they don't pass, that's fine. But we have to be transparent to the community. And that's really the only way it's going to be. If it dies in, if one committee's making a decision on behalf of another one, what's the point of having the ad hoc committee? It was a great committee, Nancy. I appreciate you putting it together. And as Cecil mentioned, most of the recommendations passed unanimously. All the others that passed at 65% approval. It's not like it was 50-50 and they were questionable. I mean, it was very, very lopsided voting results out of that committee. I would highly be careful about just killing it in another committee because they did not participate in the process. And I know they serve a great purpose, but this is a different animal we're dealing with. You guys were elected to make tough decisions. And I ask you to do that, to make the tough decisions, get it to your level, and you guys make the tough decisions. Thank you.
So Mark, just so you know, the rules will all come before us. Okay. They will all come before us, the ones that came through. I understand. I understand what was said. I understand, but all of those rules will come before us. And so that's what, Yes, sir. I understand that. They will all come. None of them are going to be defeated or not brought forward. So just making sure you understand that.
Remind in the minutes, we did vote on that as a board and it was 9-0 that the recommendations from the ad hoc committee as presented.
They were
Correct.
recommendations. That's correct. Uh-huh.
All of the recommendations.
It was a recommendation. That's correct. All right. Who else? Victoria, is that you? Use the microphone. Now say it again.
Victoria Cowart, lot 1241. Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time. I was curious. I'm a first year Kiowan out here, and I've gotten to be part of a committee, and it's great. But there are still areas I'm struggling to understand. I was wondering if there are any kind of project management tools available with the board or with anyone associated with the board. Any kind of like process flow. I do understand that there are RFP processes and that projects can vary quite a lot, but I maybe don't understand every single step that's a requirement. So I was curious if we had any material like that. And then I was curious what playground inspector came out. Because as a private community, we're not subject exactly to the same, I guess, regulation that state-funded parks would be committed to. So I'm wondering why we would continue to invest in playgrounds we're trying to replace.
I think part of that goes back to the statement that was made by the committee that was out there that our playgrounds were unsafe. And
Committee's
so
a big word.
well, they chose to call themselves the playground committee and they were not appointed by the board, but they chose to call themselves that. And so that was their statement that they made and they did admit at the last meeting that it was the salesperson that made that statement about them being unsafe. And so all we did is just make sure that we had done a little due diligence to see if there's anything else that we needed to replace that wasn't just what the salesman person wanted to do.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fiduciary honor there. So that's all I had.
Vicky, can I ask you a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So when you look for project management,
Mhm.
are you looking at potentially coming to the board with a project that you might want resources for? Is that what it's about or something different?
Not to digress to derail too far, but I guess so I'm on the park committee. I'm less involved in the playground committee and trying to better understand the RFP that's out for what, 30 to 60 days. There may or may not be a bid that comes back. That kind of walkthrough process to understand where it goes, where it can get stopped, where there are bottlenecks, just a better operational understanding.
So two things. I can send you kind of and we can do this offline too, but just quickly, I can send you kind of the suggested flow from idea to kind of approval that we have. And we're also working the Ways and Means Committee on a more formal view of the contract type / procurement process that will have different thresholds. So under like $5,000 or $10,000, under 50 grand, over 50 grand. I can send you a draft of what those look like, but that's actively being solidified through the Ways and Means right now.
Thank you. I've got your email. I can follow up with you.
All right, great. Thanks, Vicky.
Ken Bonzo, lot 169. So I just had a couple of quick comments from listening to the boat stuff. Thank you. The one about the first one, the watercraft operator restrictions, is this going to be incorporated in the boater safety test? So I almost hate making this observation comment because I don't want my name associated with this. But so I looked at my card. It's 10 years old. There's no renewal on that. As things get changed, there's really not a mechanism out there to know of the changes. So like I said, I even hate bringing this up, but maybe there shouldn't be it's good for infinity and maybe have some kind of every few years or something. So anyway, that's common. Huh? Yeah.
It's a good comment, Ken. Okay.
Oh, okay. And then the other one was, so I don't know anything about what six rules y'all put forward, how they're interrelated. We're going to find out. But my only concern in listening tonight is like the one that brought up the being tabled was an equipment restriction. So, it's been put, kicked down the road here for at least 30 days, but ultimately I don't know how long it's going to be kicked down the road. And just in the meantime, we're still allowing equipment to come in that possibly, I'm assuming we're going to grandfather stuff that's going to be already on the lake. So that's just my concern, that the farther we push this out, stuff that ultimately passes, stuff could come in the meantime that defeats purchase. It's just maybe just a handful of boats, but it's a handful of boats. So, and that's it.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone else?
So my name is Carolyn Peters. I'm lot 1616. And to answer your question, sir, that you just said, on boat size restriction, when I started the committee, or we started the committee, we were talking about when are we going to meet the next day or the next month. And several members on the committee pushed that we had to get this done before Memorial Weekend, so the Rules Committee could meet, and this board meeting was going to be the final meeting to say whether the rules and regulations were going to be put forward. So I am disappointed because I worked tirelessly with 14 or 15 other committee members to get everything done, pen to paper, to the Rules Committee, and now 10% of it has been presented to the board today. So I'm as confused as you are, because these all should have been voted on today. So I just want to let everybody know that we did do a tremendous amount of work. I'm disappointed that everything wasn't presented to the board. We put a lot of work into it. And if something isn't presented, because I feel like there was some confusion about what was said earlier, that possibly some things would not come in front of the board. I really hope, for transparency purposes, everything, all the work that the ad hoc committee did that went to the Rules Committee is going to be presented to the board, just for transparency for the members and everybody at Lake Kiowa. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? All right. Then we shall take a break right now until 8:30, and at 8:30 we will come back for an executive committee meeting. Executive session, excuse me.